Hello everyone. We will wait for around like 2 more minutes for everyone to come. And in this time, Ms. Susan Lucas is here. You can feel free to like say hi to her.
Hi.
Okay. Maybe I will start a bit first and let everyone to join us later. And also we have a recording as well. So everyone definitely can join can join it and can see it, can hear it after. Hello everyone. So my name is Mia. Employee Experience Managers at Trimplex, and this is EX Monthly Global Expert Chat. It's still a long name to me, but somehow I say it like 9 times already. So thank you so much for being here. So today we're honored to have Miss Suzanne Lucas, the evil HR lady. So yeah, but we say in the post that she's not evil, she's super nice. Okay, trust me. Before we meet her, I would love to introduce a little bit about Trimplex and why we are doing this series. So, Dreamlex is the workplace experience provider where you can find like the best of both worlds, the private, branded, and professional office and their service, engaging and flexible workplace. So currently we have 5 existing locations and two upcoming more next year is Nguyễn Lưu Dĩ and Hoàng Diệu. So here we are focused on a lot in employee experience, so our mission is to bring like a better day at work. So we have a lot of workshop, we have a lot of events around that. So it's a creative workshop, lifestyle sharing, training and development, and well-being care, especially for the future call as well. So in the future call, we really want to help to leverage the core team, especially for the HR team. So we create a lot of workshop like EX mini conference, Gen Z in the workplace. We publish the report on our website as well. Fulbright Career Day, and now this is the EX Monthly Global Expert Tech. This is one of the example. Okay, so today is totally different. Not like the previous episode when when we had the presentations from the expert. Instead, like we will have a shift with this lady to know more about her thought and hear about her sharing. But the HR lady, yeah, we just have like a small talk before this, and it's really interesting. So trust me. So, yeah, so first of all, I will let our special guest to introduce a little bit about herself to all you guys.
I'm happy to be here. My name is Suzanne Lucas, and I am also known as the evil HR lady. And I have spent a long time in HR. I've been in HR for 22 years. Yikes. Getting old there.
Oh my God.
Um, and 15 years ago, I launched Evil HR Lady, and my focus there is really to help explain the world of HR and to help support HR people and managers and employees to all be the best that they can be. So that's really my focus is I want to make business better for everyone.
Oh, great. It's also aligned with our mission, a better network. So, yes. So I think the very first questions that I want to ask you, I think other people are curious as well because you have a very interesting and catchy name, the Evil HR Lady. So, okay, so how about the kindest? What wrong with the kindest, the happiest people in the world? HR. So, any specific reason for you to name that?
Well, when I started writing my blog, I was working for a big pharmaceutical company, and pharmaceutical companies are very conservative and very nervous about anything like that. So I needed to write under a fake name. And so I thought about what would be a good name. And I thought about how people have their perception of human resources. And I just want you to sit there and think about if your manager calls you in for a meeting and you walk into her office and sitting there is the HR manager, what immediately goes through your brain? It's not a good thought.
Yes.
You know that she's not there to tell you, hey, you're doing a great job. And this is the side of HR that people see. They see us when we're discussing problems with them, when we're firing them, when we're saying you need to fill out this paperwork, because nobody likes filling out paperwork, but we don't like it either. Just fill it out and then we'll leave you alone. And so there's a negative attitude about HR. And so that's why I picked the Evil HR Lady, is to kind of represent that negative attitude that people have towards this profession.
Okay. So you take the negative name and you turn it into the good things because you're so nice on that.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I try to be nice.
Okay. It's great. Yeah, so during this is kind of the free talk. So during the discussion, so if you have any topic, if you had any questions that you want to ask Susan, please feel free to put it in the chat or the Q&A sections. I would like live that questions directly to Susan. So yeah, I go through your website and I was really impressed by the article like Dear HR, this is why people hate you. And that's also inspired me to choose the title like Dear HR, let's get real for today. And you wrote it like, is this time for a new HR? So can you elaborate more on this point? What is the new HR?
Well, traditionally, HR, I mean, if you go back, and even now in some companies, HR is a bunch of paper pushers who hire and fire, and we do paperwork. And we still hire and fire, and we still do paperwork. But there needs to be a lot more to it. And really, we should be the people experts. And so just like when you have a money question, you go to finance. When you have a people question, you should be coming to HR. And that article that you mentioned, the Dear HR, this is why people hate you, is about an HR manager who was not thinking about people at all. She told an employee that he was scheduled for this day and he couldn't take it off, even though he had an order from a judge to appear in court. And this is the type of thing that some people get so caught up in the rules, because HR people, we're rule followers, we're rule makers, we're rule followers, that we can't see when we need to make an exception. Of course, if a judge is court ordering you to appear in court, your HR manager needs to say, good luck, have a good time. We'll see you when you get back. That's just, it's common sense, but sometimes we get so caught up in the rules, which are we already told you you couldn't have this day off, that we're going to say no to it. And this is where we need to have that mind shift change. We really have, with the pandemic and everybody working from home, suddenly people have realized that all of these rules that businesses have put on them and that HR managers have enforced aren't really so necessary to get the job done. And that is forcing us as a profession to change and to look more people first. And this isn't just to be kind, it's to save the business. If you are not looking for people first, people will not want to work for your company, and then you don't have a company. So it's a really critical thing. And this is a difficult shift, not just for HR people, but for business leaders, to focus on, like, look, if we want employees, we have to treat people right.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not because I'm an HR people, but I'm an HR person. Like, yes, but it's kind of biased when I say this. But yeah, it's true. Like, if you really invest in people, like, yes, your company will be a great place to work. And then from that point, like, you will have a lot of things like come forward. So because like we talk about the new HR. So yes, as you always say that, like, HR are being underestimated by other like managers, right? So yeah, I guess we talk about that. So how should we change the mindset, or like how should we change ourselves, like, and where do we start from that?
Well, the first thing is going to sound kind of weird, but we have to do the little things right first, because there is no way the CEO is going to listen to you if you can't get the paperwork done correctly.
Yes.
You may be brilliant at strategy, but if people's insurance claims are not going through, or you didn't file this legal document, or someone's name is wrong in the system, which may not be your fault at all, but everybody thinks it's HR's fault. And so if we can't get these little annoying things that people see done correctly, then we can't do the bigger things. So that's our first step, is that we have to take care of that. The second step is with recruiting. Lots and lots of people, their only contact with human resources is when they're hired and then when they leave. And so one of the problems that we've had in recruiting for years and years and years is recruiters and hiring managers not being kind to job candidates and treating them just like things that they can pluck off of a shelf. Instead of saying, look, this is a human who has expressed interest in our company, let's treat this person well. We may not want to hire you today, but that doesn't mean we won't want to hire you tomorrow. And it doesn't mean that someday you may be working for a different company and we want to do business with that company. And if we've treated you poorly in our hiring process, maybe at that new company that you're at, you won't give us the contract because you think we're terrible people. There needs to be that really positive feeling that even if people don't get the job, which most people won't, and that's okay, but when we ghost people, when we make you go through 6 rounds of interviews and then ghost you, that's even worse. You shouldn't be going through that many rounds of interviews anyway. And this is a global thing that needs to change, because I can be the best recruiter on the planet and treat everybody well, but if none of the other recruiters are doing that, then people still come in with a negative attitude towards HR, even though I'm doing it right. This is something that we need profession-wide to make those changes. So we get the little things done right, then we do the recruiting right, and then we can start working with other managers and with the leadership. If we can't do those two little things right, then we can't do the others. When we're working with other departments, we also need to learn to speak their language. And I'm not talking about English versus Vietnamese,
Yes, I understand.
which I don't speak any Vietnamese, so I'm grateful you're letting me speak in English. But finance is going to want to speak in terms of money. So if we go and say, we need to implement this training program, they're going to say, what's the return on investment? And if we say, well, I don't know, why should they listen to us? If we say this is going to reduce turnover, they'll say, by how much? And if we say, I don't know, that doesn't do any good for them. We need to speak their language. And typically CEOs and vice presidents and finance people and marketing people all speak in numbers. And we're like, oh, let's talk about employee engagement and how happy people are, but we can't give any numbers. And part of that is frustrating because we're like, look, you can walk around and see that people are happy, but we need to be able to translate that into how does happy help the business? How does that save money? How will this training program save us money in the long run? And if we can do all that, then they will listen to us. The other thing is, you often hear HR people saying, you know, I want a seat at the table. And my thing is bring your own chair and sit down. Just assume that the expert on people needs to be in that meeting. Make them kick you out. If most people won't because they're polite. So, but just be there and say, look, this has to happen. You need to think about your employees. And this is especially something right now where we're seeing a lot of turnover, that businesses are waking up to that like, oh, I need to pay attention to what my employees think. So that is my super secret plan.
Okay, but this is really detailed. So we start with get the little things right. So and then we talk about the recruiting, and then we speak their language, and mostly about numbers. Everything
Right.
is turning into the numbers and about the money. So yeah, but I really want to elaborate more on the recruiting, because like there's one thing I'm curious when you talk about the definitions of talent. So you are the person who really hates the word talent, right? you even say, yeah, you even say that. So HR is time to stop recruiting talent. So
Yes.
so can you explain more on this? And also instead of talent, so what are you looking for?
So the reason why I don't like the word talent is that it implies that this is something that you're born with. Like, oh, you're so talented. And, you know, people will say to me, you're a talented writer. And I say, thank you. But what they should really say is, you're a very skilled writer, because I have spent years and years and years working on this and perfecting this. And, you know, we use the word talent a lot when we talk about music or art, you know, oh, what a talented artist. And that makes it sound like this person was just born with a paintbrush in their hand. No, there's all of this training and development that goes on. And so when in HR, we talk about talent, especially when we talk about recruiting talent, it's like this idea that we should just go out and find someone that was born to do accounting, or, you know, just a born chemist. Nobody is. What you want is someone with skills. And the other thing is talents, you are born with them and you can choose to develop them or not to develop them, but you don't get new talents. Skills, anybody can get, you know, so you may not be naturally talented at chemistry, but if you worked at it, you could be a good chemist. You can make that choice. And so when we're hiring, we don't necessarily want the person who is most talented, because talent doesn't mean that they have the skills. It doesn't mean they have the work ethic. It just means that they have a natural ability for it. We want someone who is skilled, someone that will work hard. And this is also something that we can flip on ourselves, because oftentimes people say, oh, I don't have any talent for that. Okay, but if you want to do it, learn how to do it. Take a class. We live in this magical age where you can find online a class for anything. And sometimes they cost money, sometimes they are free. But if you want to do anything, you can learn how to do it sitting at home in your pajamas. You know, you can learn that. This is something that no other generation has ever had before. You know, if in the olden times, if you wanted to be a blacksmith and your dad wasn't a blacksmith, you're not going to be able to do it, or whatever, because you needed to know people. Now, if you want to learn how to do something, it's available to you right now. And so we can shift that mindset from, oh, I don't have any talent, to this is a skill that I can develop. You know, if I wanted to be a really good piano player, I could start taking lessons, I could practice, or I could sit here and say, oh, I wish I was talented. That doesn't do any good. So this is why I don't like the word talent. I want to talk about skills instead of talent.
Great point. So how about like company? Why, like, if they really looking at the talent, so instead of talent, so what they should looking for? I mean, like the potentials one, or like they will recruit and train them?
Yeah, potential and that ability to be trained. This is something that companies often want to hire someone who has all of the skills and everything needed to do this job perfectly from day one. But that's really hard to find. And instead, if we say, okay, what we want is someone that can learn to do this job with a little bit of help. And when you change your viewpoint to that, suddenly you have a lot more job candidates available to you. You know, just one of those things that I remember in a job interview years ago, the hiring manager asked me if I could do if I had familiarity with a certain database. And I didn't. I had heard of it before. But what I said is, that's a relational database. I've worked with relational databases before. I'm sure I can learn it. And he hired me, and the first thing he did was send me to classes to learn how to use this database. Yes, it cost him some money to train me, and I was out of the office for a week. But in a week, I could do the job because I had had some experience with other relational databases. And this one I was able to learn. He could have held out for another 6 months to find someone that could do that specific database. But instead, he said, look, here's someone that has all of the other skills that we need. She's missing this one thing. I can train that. And we can do that. We can say, okay, look, I only need a candidate that meets 75% of the qualifications, and I can train in everything else. And one of the things that you hear people say often is that you can train in skills, but not attitude. And so if someone comes to you with the idea of, yes, I'm really excited to be here, I really want to work for your company, I really like this, and I'm going to be a positive attitude, then that is something that is a great thing that you should latch onto and teach them the skills later. Anybody can learn to do anything if they want to.
Yes, I agree with that. And yes, what you talk about, like what is the skill that we are liking, and what should we transform it? And yeah, it's quite like the performance review sections, right? When people sit and then we talk about that. Yes, I think we have some questions here. So okay, it's really interesting questions. Like, hi Susan, is interview a liar? between the candidate and the HR. Like candidate tell lies to be recruited, and the HR tell lies about a company.
This happens so much and it drives me crazy because especially companies will lie about the job and they'll say, oh, we have flexibility, and then the person starts and there is no flexibility in the company. We're seeing a lot of this post-COVID, if I can say post-COVID. I hope we are, but we're not anyway. Where businesses are advertising positions as a work from home position, but then when people get hired, they find out that it's only work from home until COVID restrictions are lifted. And then what you get is employees that are not happy. Just be honest. There are lots of people that like to work in the office. So just say this job is in the office. Yes, you'll have fewer candidates, but the candidates that you do get will be people that want the job. Honesty is so important for that. I once had a job interview where the hiring manager was like, look, here's the deal. My boss is a nightmare. She screams. She is demanding. She said, I will do everything to try to protect you from her, but you need to know coming into this, working with this woman will not be easy. She said, we will pay you a lot of money because working with her is really difficult, but this is what you have to know. And you know what? I took that job because I wanted the money and I wanted the opportunity. And they did pay me very well. But I didn't go into it thinking this is going to be super easy. I went into it knowing that working with this woman was going to be difficult. Now, I did get really lucky because after I had been there for 3 months, the horrible boss got fired. So I had my good salary and then I had a good boss. That worked out really well. But I would have been okay with it even if she hadn't been, because my boss was upfront with me in the beginning. This is going to be a hard job. This is why it's going to be hard, but your salary is going to reflect that. Do that. Be honest. If it is a 70-hour work week, let people know. That way you get the people that are willing to do this. Now, on the other side, we have problems with candidates who lie. And that is partially because we expect perfection in candidates. I don't know why we think that people should never make mistakes and never take a job that's not a good fit for them and never get laid off or never have a bad day. This is this huge demand we make on people. And so what we get is people lying. I was just reading this morning about somebody who made up a job on their resume because they were in prison. And so just made up a job for that time period. Nobody checked, was hired, worked there for 3 years, and then somehow they found out. And then he got fired. And he was like, this is really unfair. Well, no, it's not unfair because you lied on your CV. That's something you get fired for. But the reality is if he had been honest and said, well, I was in prison, but here are my skills, they never would have hired him. And so on the one hand, we say, be honest, be honest, be honest. But if you are honest, then we won't hire you. You know, if we say to people, so tell me why you're looking to leave. And if you leave your current job. And if the person says, oh, because my manager is horrible, then we say, I don't want that negative person working for me. You know what? There are horrible managers. So instead, the person lies and says, I'm just looking for new growth and opportunities. And I really feel like, your business. Whereas if they were honest and said, my manager is horrible, then you could say, what made your manager a horrible person? And so if the response then is, oh my gosh, she was always yelling at me because I never got my stuff in on time. Okay, that's a reason not to hire you. But if it's because, she was micromanager, she called me at home at 10 o'clock on Sunday nights and expected an immediate response. Okay, I'm not going to do that as a manager. So maybe we can still work, but we've set up the situation to make lying the only option. So everyone needs to stop lying.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions coming up to you. So one question is because you're talking about a leader. So like we Vietnamese MNC HR people always between the boss from another country and the local people. So how can we help them to know the way working together better?
This is so hard.
Yes.
This is so hard because culture is
Different.
so different. I'm an American. I live in Europe. And if you saw me walking down the street, you would not know that I wasn't Swiss because I look like all the people around me. But my culture is so different. And your culture is different than my culture. And so when you're dealing with these multinational corporations, you have somebody sitting in an office somewhere, whether it's Singapore or Hong Kong or New York or Rome, somebody is sitting there and they're writing policies. And then they say to you in Vietnam, please implement this policy. And you go, no, my people won't do that. And they're like, but that's the policy. And some things are important, like no sexual harassment. Okay, that's, we don't get to say, oh, well, in our culture, it's okay. No, it's not okay. We're not going to do that in this company. But a lot of things are really culturally dependent. One thing that the Swiss do is they take a break at 10 o'clock in the morning where they have a snack. They have their coffee and a bread and cheese or whatever at 10 o'clock. And this is like sacred time to them. And I was in a new position and I was like, this is ridiculous. We don't need this anymore. And you would have thought that I had said, we're going to start killing people. Like people were like, what on earth are you talking about? We have to have this because that's their culture. And for me as an American, I was like, this is a ridiculous waste of time. Why are we all doing this? You can go from breakfast to lunch without a snack, right? But no, they can't. It's their culture. And so when you're dealing with that multinational corporation, you need to sit down and decide what is culture and what is necessary. So like I said, sexual harassment, that's not allowable. But cultures are going to approach that differently. And what sexual harassment is going to be considered very different from culture to culture. If I, as an American living in Europe, if my male boss comes and puts his hand on my shoulder, that's fine. If he comes and puts his hand on my shoulder and says, hey, Suzanne, can you answer this? That's fine. If I'm in the Middle East and my male boss does that, that's sexual harassment, right? Because that's men and women, no touching, right? And so you'll need to make some adjustments from place to place. And it requires you speaking up. Now, will they listen to you? Maybe, maybe not. But if you can sit down and say, look, this is what the problem is. This is why we're having difficulty here. Just within European cultures, the Swiss are on time for everything. Like, this drives me crazy because I'm an American and we're late for everything. So if I invite a Swiss person to my house for dinner and I say, please come at 7, they will be at my door at 6:45 every time. And I know they're going to do this and I'm still not ready for it. But my parents used to live in Portugal, and there, if you invite someone for dinner at 7 o'clock, they will show up at 7:30, 7:45, because that's their culture there.
Oh, really? Is that normal?
Yes.
Okay. Surprise.
So those are the types of things that you need to deal with it. So we need to have meetings that start at a specific time.
Mm.
Okay, so it may be the Portuguese culture that everybody comes in whenever, but we, from a corporate standpoint, we can't have the rest of the world sitting around waiting for the Portuguese to show up. So that's something that I don't care what your culture is, for the good of the company, everyone needs to be there. But on the other hand, don't schedule a meeting with the Swiss people at 10 o'clock because that's when they're having their snack.
Oh my
And
God,
they
so
don't want to
lucky.
come.
Okay.
It's very funny. They're very into it. And you laugh because it's not your culture. It's not my culture. It's hilarious to me. It's hilarious to you. It's not hilarious to them. Let me tell you, it's not. And so you just need to break out, well, what's important, what's not important.
Mm.
All right. So when we have our Zoom meeting, everybody can bring their roll and their coffee to the Zoom meeting so we can have one at 10 o'clock. And we're going to tell the Portuguese to show up at 10 and they have to be on time because otherwise you're making people wait for you. But you have to break down what is important and what is not important. And sometimes you just do things differently and keep it really quiet.
No, I agree on this point because we also have like multi-cultures in our company. And I'm honestly feel so lucky because you're Americans and it's 10 a.m. right now from your town. So it's not having snack right now, right? You're not having snack right now.
No, because I'm not Swiss.
Okay. So yes, there's one thing about the conflicts between when you're recruiting people, there's conflict between like the HR managers and the hiring managers. So hiring managers here is gonna be the line managers who want to
Right.
find people. So yeah, what should we do to like facilitate the discussions and recruit people to match with the company?
There's going to be always these conflicts because people have different goals, right?
Yes.
The hiring manager, their goal is to get the best possible person in the position. And you as the HR person or the recruiter, your goal is to get the position filled. Now, you want a good person in there, but you're looking for a good enough person, and the hiring manager may be looking for a perfect person.
Yes.
And so this is where you're going to have this conversation with them. And this is where things like numbers matter so much. I shared that story earlier about the job that I got where I lacked one of the skills, but I was able to gain that by going to a week of training. Now, I'm not quite sure how much that training cost, but I'm sure it was a couple $1,000s. I don't know. I mean, I was in a big class. I don't know. It was training, right? But you have to ask the hiring manager, okay, should we pay some money to have this person trained? Or should we leave the position vacant for 6 months? And how much money is that going to cost us? So when we have this position vacant, then the 3 other people in the department are now working overtime.
Okay.
And so we're paying more money for them to fill in these things than we would have to pay just to hire someone new and send them to a 2-week training course. And the other question is, if we find someone that has this skill, they're probably going to want a higher salary than what we can offer. So we're going to have to take longer and pay more, or we can hire someone today who we can spend a little bit of money and train, and then we have someone with these skills. I like to say we can build our own unicorns. We don't need something special and magical. We just say, look, this person has some skills in the area. They have the desire to learn. And this can be a conversation that you have with a hiring manager. Another problem that hiring managers often have is that most hiring managers don't hire a lot. Most people have 3 or 4 direct reports. They might hire someone every other year.
Okay.
And so they're not experienced and they're nervous. And so they want to make the best decision, and it's hard. So you can support them in saying, let's sit down and decide what you really need. Does this person meet those criteria? And then let them know it's okay to make a mistake. Everybody who's ever hired has made a mistake before. It's because we're people and we're imperfect. So help them work through whatever it is that's stopping them. Now, of course, some of the problems we face with hiring managers is we go out and get candidates and then they say, oh, you know what? What I really need is someone that speaks Spanish. And you're like, you didn't tell me I needed Spanish, and now we have to start over again because none of my candidates speak Spanish. That's really annoying. And in which case you really need to sit down with the hiring manager and be like, this is it, what skills do you really need? Now, will they listen to you? Maybe, maybe not. But as I said at the beginning, if you're getting those little things done right, if they know that if I send you an email, you're going to respond to me, within a reasonable amount of time, and it's going to be the right information, that type of thing builds that trust. And hopefully they will be able to listen to you and make better choices because they know that you are a smart person and that you care about the business.
Okay, so look like a lot of collaboration and patience as well.
Yes, a lot of patience.
Yes. So speaking of the hiring as well, so there's another questions coming up is that when you have the vacancy in the HR managers, but the candidate apply, he's just the level of supervisor. So would you recruit him? I think it's yes if his potential.
If they've lied, it kind of depends because things like titles, there's well, I don't know, maybe in Vietnam there is, but in Europe and in the US, there's no law that says these are the qualifications for this title. I could say, oh, my title is Queen of HR. I can make that my title. And so sometimes companies give titles that don't reflect the work that they do.
Yes.
And so some things that I tell people to do is if their title doesn't make a lot of sense, to put their real title on their resume, but then put in parentheses what they actually do. So, for someone that oh, I'm the vice president of happiness. That's actually a title that some companies like to use. In parentheses, that person would put, vice president, human resources, employee engagement. Because what does vice president of happiness means? No one knows. But if I'm looking for a candidate, I'm like, okay, this is the person that has this experience. I'm not going to be able to see that with the dumb title. So if people are lying, but if they have a good explanation as to why they've changed it because it's more reflective of what they do, I'm pretty soft-hearted.
Okay. So, okay, it's gonna go to the end of this sections. So fast, right? 40 minutes flies so fast. I will consider to spend a little bit of time for the next webinar. So okay, so let's get real at the end of this. So you have the talk show that is named Sorry HR, You Don't Get Any Friends at Work. Okay, yes. So I think there's a lot of HR in this room. And yes, this is true actually. Because you are the one, not really evil, but you are the kindest and happiest people in the company who always listen to other problems. And you have to be between other people as well, other functions, other managers, even from your most and work for others. So what should we do? And what is the better mindset on that? Sure, we don't have any friends at work.
Well, we want to always be friendly. But the reason why I say you don't get any friends at work is because, if let's say you and I are best friends and we go shopping together, we go on vacation together, we're really good friends, right? And you have an employee that you are treating terribly and you're mean and horrible to this person. That employee is never going to come to me and say, hey, I need help because Mia is being a terrible boss, because she knows that we're best friends, right?
Yes.
And so what's she going to do? She's going to quit. And the next person is going to quit. And the next person is going to quit. And the next person is going to quit. And I'm never going to know what the problem is because they're not telling me, because they know that I'll take your side. And you could say, well, I'm an honest HR manager. I would not take my best friend's side. I would listen. It doesn't matter whether you're honest or not, and whether you're good or not. People will assume that you will. And we understand this when it comes to romantic relationships. And we always say, you can't date someone in your department. You can't date someone that you manage. But friendship can be just as strong as a romantic relationship. And so what we really need to do is be friendly to everybody. That doesn't mean that you have to sit by yourself in the corner and not eat lunch with people. But if you eat lunch every day with the same people, then people are like, oh, those are her friends. Those are the people that get special things. And we can't have that. We need to have HR being a place where people can trust and can come to you.
It's actually really easy to imagine when you talk about dating and you talk about a lunch. It actually is like, yes, you create the comfort zone for everyone to come to you. And yeah, for in that positions, it has to be really neutral, right? Not really biased for anyone, or like, yeah.
Right.
But it's hard. It's really hard because like we're just human, actually.
We're just humans, and that's my cat.
No.
Hey, Mikey, say hi.
Okay, he or she, like, just say hi, right?
It's he.
Okay, he just say hi.
Yeah, he says hi.
Okay, it's now you're still working from home, right? Or like hybrid?
I always work from home, so yeah.
Wow, privilege. It is. Okay, so yeah, it actually comes to the end already. So yeah, we're running out of time. So if anyone have any questions, so Susan, so you can directly to me and I will ask her. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here today, Susan. Thank you so much for this.
You're welcome. It was fun. Sorry about my cat tail.
No, that's so cute. I like cats. I think everyone likes cats as well.
Yes, that's the best part of working from home.
Okay, so yeah, thank you so much for this nice. I think it's just a nice conversation to everyone. It's just a little bit short, so yeah, I think like we will make it more like yes. Thank you so much. Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.